He's too big.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sup Talk Radio. Today, you want to learn about bodybuilding, stepping on stage, the grind, and what it's like. I have surrounded myself with three people that are on track to do it on an upcoming show. My personal friends, Josh from D1 Nutrition. We've got James from Impel Nutrition, and making his very first podcast appearance, not just the Sup Talk, but just in general. Yes, I'm stealing his podcast virginity. Welcome, JoJo of Apollon Nutrition. Welcome,
Yeah.
everybody.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Seriously.
Yeah, so I should say the three of you guys are got shows up on in the queue here. I guess Josh, let's start off with you a little bit. What are you looking at? What show and what division? What are you hoping to do, my friend?
So I'm doing a show for OCB, which I think stands for Organization of Competitive Bodybuilders, something like that. It's a natural show, natural organization. November 12th is the date. Going to be doing classic physique only. Last time I had competed, I did men's physique and classic physique. Ended up getting my pro card in men's physique for the organization I was in, but I don't like men's physique. It's boring as hell. So focusing strictly on classic this time because that's where my heart is, my mind is, my posing is, and yeah.
So Josh, is it because you want to pose where physique? There's really what two mandatory poses?
100%. Yeah, there's your 4 quarter turns, and that's really it, technically speaking, for men's physique. Some organizations will throw in some more bodybuilder or classic physique poses, but they're not actually men's physique poses by any means. And that's just it's too boring, too bland.
And James, you talked forever, and then all of a sudden you just kind of surprised the world a little bit. Like, yep, 8 weeks out, 7 weeks out, I'm in. Where'd that come from, my friend?
Well, I mean, we've talked a couple of times. It was just like getting in shape to do some more brand content. I've got to get photos for the company, and we were doing a little photo shoot. And I was like, you know what? Let me pull my shirt off. I'll hit a couple poses, like take some pictures. And he turned the camera, and I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, that looks a lot different than it did, in 2017 when I competed that one time. So I was like, screw it, man. Diet was already going good. We picked this show that's here local. And it was like 8-10 weeks out. And I was just like, we'll see what happens. We'll diet for it. And, if things come together, great. And then things started like really lining up. So I was like, okay, we'll put the hammer down and do what we can do.
And you're doing an NPC Classic, an NPC show?
Yeah, it's an NPC show. It's local. There's a couple different ones around here, but this is one that, the brand, we've sponsored it. It's some guys that I know. It's local, so there'll be like a good turnout for people that support Impel. So it'd be fun to get up there. And I've got 2 or 3 other athletes that are going to do the show with me.
Sweet. So you're doing this on your own. You're not doing it as a bet like you did your first one, right?
Right. Yeah. The other one was my buddy. He's, a really good bodybuilder. He's won, multiple shows, been to nationals. But he was just like training like a bitch. And, he trained at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'll run my mouth. I mean, if you know me at all, like, I'm going to talk trash. And he finally just got fed up, and he's like, listen, I'll buy your trunks. I'll buy your NPC card. Just, I bet you won't do it. I'm like, let's go. I'll prance around in my underwear. I don't care.
That's awesome.
So this time, it's much more of like trying to be competitive and see how my muscle has matured in the last 5 years.
Yep. And JoJo, you're defending what
Technically,
talk about that, my friend. Last year was your first show, correct?
So my first bodybuilding show, I did do a classic physique show back in 2018. And that was like my journey to like just not being fat anymore. I went from like 230 pounds, just out of shape, being a dad and everything. And I worked out for a long time, spent a lot of time in the gym. And, my wife, she was just like, why are you always going to the gym? Nothing's changing. And I was like,
damn.
Which I could, she wasn't wrong. I spent 2-3 hours in the gym hitting like all the workouts, trying every split, and nothing was really changing. And then, so when she said that, kind of lit a fire under my butt. And I was like, okay, I need to learn and put this more to work. And then I went to a NPC bodybuilding show in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And when I went there, I was like, people are kind of normal, like, you know, because I'm so used to like looking
I've
at
never
like,
heard that.
I mean, you know, when I was like not really following but seeing it, you see Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, and you know these guys
Okay.
are like ridiculous, you know. And so when I decided to go to a local show, I mean, there were guys who definitely, you know, were big, but then like the other half of the amateurs were like, oh, they just kind of look like guys I see at the beach or you know whatever. So I was just like, I could probably do this. And then of course it was an NPC show, and I was like, well, there's also natural shows, so those guys are probably going to be smaller. So I was like, I'll do a classic physique show because then I don't have to be as buff, because that's what I thought at the time, you know, for classic, it's not so hard and grainy. And so I did that, and I went from 230 pounds to 165 pounds.
Damn, brother.
That's
Yeah.
That's
And
huge.
I actually got kind of mad when I did this show, because when I did it, I felt like I looked the best out of all three of them. I mean, there was three people in the show. I got third, and I was like, man, my body looks way better than all of them. But you know, I didn't understand the judging. I didn't understand what they were looking for. But then all the judges were like, "You're just fit. Your body's better for bodybuilding." So I was like, "I'm probably done." I did it at one show, felt good about myself, and I was like, I don't want to do it. You know, you know. And then I went through a really, really hard time and gained a lot of weight. Went through some depression stuff and almost gave up on life. And then Nate with Battle of the Beach, the OCB in Orange Beach, he reached out to me once I came back to like social media and life, because I gave it up for almost a year, just totally detached from the world. He was one of the first people to message me and was like, how about we pay for your entry and you come back? I was
Wow.
just like, man,
Well,
that's
that's
not a
awesome.
sign from God to just kind of get my life together. And I did it and competed and turned pro. So that was
So did
it.
you? So to put you on the spot, did you then look at your wife afterwards and be like, okay, now it's going to the gym worth it or what?
Not really. I kind of thanked her for it more, you know, because like I've even trained her a lot, and she's just one of those people. Like, I think she's gonna make me the best trainer that I will become for other people, because every time I would put her through a workout that felt good for me, she'd be like, I don't feel this. This is dumb. I don't want to work this. And so I really thank her for everything that, you know, that lighting that fire under my butt, saying like, you're not doing anything right. You look the same. And then you know, then also just with the workouts and stuff, how she's like, you know, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. And I'm like, okay. And it made me think like, maybe people don't feel it. I can't force everybody to feel the workout the way I do. So yeah, so I'm thankful that she decided to tell me I look like crap still. But no,
And
she's my biggest supporter too. So
that's awesome. And
yeah.
Josh, I know we discussed this in a previous life, but what got you into stepping on stage, getting the best that you could be?
When my brother died, honestly, that was really what sparked the fire for me. That was back when I was, gosh, I reckon 16. I spent a solid 2 weeks in my bedroom, totally locked up, not talking to anyone or anything like that. And I was on YouTube, and I reckon I saw pumping iron, ironically enough, and Arnold's there, and I'm just like, oh, this looks dope. Like back when I was younger, I was always a fat kid and everything like that, but I was always like the strong bully. I know that doesn't sound good by any means, but I was always the strongest kid in the school and shit like that. And I finally wanted to do something with that whole mentality and shit. And that was just walking into the gym one day and just hopping on the bench and doing 30 fucking cents of flat bench press that day. And that's what started it.
And James, yourself? I know you had kind of an interesting life growing up, but I don't know if bodybuilding kind of set you straight. I don't remember.
I mean, for me, it was just like working out has always been something that helped keep my mind in the right kind of chemical balance. I had a lot of mental health issues when I was in my teenage years, going through a lot of chaos growing up. And my dad was in the military, so like physical fitness was important, but I was never really an athlete. You know, it wasn't until my son was born that I really focused on, you know, being physically fit and turning my life around. You know, I was kind of just a hooligan, just doing whatever before my son was born. And, you know, I was 170 pounds at, you know, 6'3". So just skin and bones. And then I kind of got a dad bod and looked in the mirror one day and was like, I'm 215, chunky, desk job kid eating chicken nuggets every day. Time to get my shit together. And so it was just physical fitness was part of getting my head right, getting, all my lifestyle things together so that I have the energy for my son and have the energy to, go to school, go to work and make a living.
And Jojo, I know we talked about it offline that you were the same way though. You knew you were kind of out of shape. You had, I don't know how many kids you had at the time, but I remember you telling me, look, you wanted to be around, you wanted to be able to keep up with your kids.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoy coaching, so like I've coached them in like flag football, basketball, things like that. And like I could still move around for a fact. I'm 5'3", 230 pounds. Like I could still move, I could run with them. But like I also knew that if this continued, would I still be able to run with them, And at the time, they were like 8 and 4. So it was like, I just didn't want to see myself like watching them play. I always wanted to be involved. And then, with the coaching, I wanted to be able to coach. And then I kind of thought like them, not that they probably ever thought like me, but I didn't want them to be like, yeah, that's my dad over there. He's kind of the fat guy sitting down,
Damn.
Super dad bod.
Yeah. So I decided to, and then because I'm small now, my oldest daughter, she's 17, taller than me. So that means all the boys will probably be taller than her. So I got to at least look the part. I got to look intimidating because I'm not big enough to be intimidating. So.
Exactly. If you can't fill out this way, fill out this way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Josh, at what point did you know you wanted to compete?
I reckon it was one day I was at the gym that me and my brother used to train at, Worlds, and I threw up a story. It was just me hitting like a pseudo vacuum, and I remember him commenting. He was like stage in like all caps. Okay, it wasn't a story. It was an actual post, and it got a few people, to like it and shit like that. And so that got it in my head I could actually possibly do this sort of thing. Because like for a few years, me and a friend at the time, we had talked about, oh, you should compete, Josh. Oh, you should compete. Team Dick Skin. Oh, because I was always like crazy lean and shit like that.
Wait, what you saying? Thick or dick?
Team
Dick
Dick
Skin.
Skin. Dick Skin.
Okay.
Like really vascular things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sean, you might be too old where you don't really remember how that works.
Hold on, let me change my hearing aid batteries. Hold on.
I'll send you some vein. It's great for vascularity and pumps.
But yeah, so that was like my nickname at the time was like Dick Skin Josh, because I had gone from being like this fat dude to being like this skinny, like ripped, like 6 foot tall motherfucker. And I was just always 24/7, veins popping out everywhere. Like people would be like, "Oh, dude, you'd be perfect for heroin and shit like that." Like these were comments I was getting.
It's like
off
bodybuilding, drug addict.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the same.
Both addictions.
So that's what kind of prompted it, was that sort of thing. And at the time, Phil Heath was still competing. He had just won an Olympia, and Phil for me was my go-to for when it comes to a bodybuilder that inspired me to really compete. Because I was following him like a hawk, him and Kai and all that jazz that was going on. And so it was just like, okay, cool, let's do it. And 2019, that was my first show. 2020, we prepped for another show that never happened. 2021, did the same thing, competed in 2 different divisions, and now we're 2022. And
So did you go in this on your own? Did you have Ivan, or did you have any trainers, or did you just go in like most people, not knowing dick?
Ivan the entire time.
Okay. All right. And James, you obviously had a co-pilot when you did your first show.
Yeah. So I basically had to teach myself all the training and nutrition stuff over, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it was. And going into this, like the last, let's say 5 weeks, I mean, I know how to diet. So I just started pulling shit, and I'm like, okay, well, we're getting leaner. I was getting smaller, but I was getting leaner, and conditioning was on point. So like the last 5 weeks, like my buddy's like, here, come meet my coach, and let's do some posing. And he like gave me some diet tips here or there. He's like, just eat what Sean's eating. And he's 170 pounds. I'm 210 pounds or 200 pounds, whatever it was. And so it was like the last 5 weeks I got some help there. And so this time it was like, 8-9 weeks out, the same guy. He's an old school coach. He doesn't really coach anybody else, but I was like, hey man, if you'll do this for me, you're like the only person I feel like I could give this to. Like anybody else, I feel like I would second guess them because of the things that I know and kind of how I think about dieting and training. But I mean, this guy's coached coaches that I know. So like the guys that are bringing all the people into the local shows, like he coached them when they were in their bodybuilding careers.
Gotcha. And Jojo, did you have anybody in your corner for any of the shows or?
YouTube. I actually did everything through like just internet and YouTube, just because like I didn't really know who to trust at the time. And, you know, and I guess 2017, 2018, everything was like BCAs were popular, keto was popular, Atkins, you know, everything was popular. So all I did was watch a bunch of different videos. And then when each person like big in the industry, like I watched Tiger Fitness, I watched The Supplement Engineer, and just other podcasts like that. And like when they would meet and like they would be saying relatively the same things, then I'd be like, maybe I'll try that. So I did every diet. Like I did low carb, I did high carb, I did Atkins, and just to see what it do for me, I did everything for 3 weeks, and then realized that all the stuff where I cut out carbs was sucky because I love carbs. So, you know, but yeah, I did everything through just trial and error through YouTube and reading and trying to match things up, you know.
Let's talk a little bit, since we're talking meal planning and dieting and whatnot. You know, we'll kind of go around. Josh, what type of diet, or I don't say diet because I hate the word diet because the first 3 letters are die. But what are your current eating protocols? Let's say prior to the show, like let's say 10 weeks before the show and going into the show. I know we talked about it when we met, but are you high carbs? I mean, what are your macros, calories? You don't have to break it down granular, but you know what I mean?
So if it fits my macros,
Okay.
it's an option. And that's how first show I did actual meal planning. After that, I kind of played around on my own with macros and foods in general to see what worked for me personally. And at least for me as an individual, I found that I thrive on lower carbs and higher protein and higher fat contents in my day than, say, a lot of other people that'll be pumping like 250, 300 grams of carbs. And then also when it comes to like doing like a peak week, that sort of thing, that for me just causes a lot of bloating. So I'm like right now, for instance, at around 2250 calories, mostly protein, fat, carbs. You can decide the ratio how you want from there. That's really what I'm focusing on, at least. And that seems to be the trick that got me at least to where I was last year, and is the trick right now. And it seems to be working pretty well for me.
Do you eat like a bodybuilder 4 or 5 meals a day, or how many meals do you generally have?
Yep. So I have typically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 to 8 meals a day.
Golly.
But they're really small. So when I say a meal, it's like 300 calories, which could be like a snack to someone else compared to, you know, doing typical meal planning, 4 to 6 meals. They might be, 400 or 500 calories a piece.
Yep. James, same question to you, because I know you're, again, 7 or 8 weeks out, but I still hear you doing fruit. And I know some people think fruit's like the bad thing to do when you're so close to a show.
Some people are idiots too. So, which is, somebody just sent me a thing today actually, and they're like, "Hey, you need to do something on Instagram against this." The guy was talking about eating like 5 Reese's cups versus eating a whole mango, and that they're basically the same amount of carbs, but it's totally different. I mean, your glucose, pure sugars versus fructose, fiber content, micros, all that other shit. But so for me, typically I do well with a higher carb count to maintain. So like I can eat a ton of carbs and a ton of calories to stay the same. Typically in a deficit though, like I have to pull carbs pretty aggressively typically. But my training has changed a lot with this diet. So I'm actually eating 2,800 calories right now.
Wow.
So higher food like than I would normally do, but the conditioning's coming in. But I'm doing a lot more functional training. So like sled pushes, some kettlebell swings, like a lot of different cardio active weight training. So I'll leave the gym and I'll burn 1,000 calories by 8 in the morning. So I've ramped everything up, and the food is just kind of like an accessory to that, I think.
So you high carbs, like medium protein and low fat then?
Uh, fat's pretty low, but I've got 8-ounce beef meal and half an avocado. But there was some peanut butter in there that got pulled. So
I'll be right back, guys. One second.
you're good. So, there's decent amount of sweet potatoes and 2 whole meals of rice. There's cream of rice in there, oats. So it's a decent amount of carbs. I haven't even mapped it out because I don't want to think about it. You know what I mean? That's why I have the coach to do it. I know about the calorie content, but if I start like micro analyzing, well, we're at 350 grams of carbs a day, then I know I'll get in my head. I'm like, just do the soldier thing, get on the plan, follow the plan.
So now will you every week do you decrease it, or is it really just how you're feeling? Like, okay, I'm staying at 2,800, or maybe next week we'll go down to 26, or is there kind of a
talking to my coach the last 2 weeks, we haven't pulled any food at all. So the scale was dropping, conditioning was coming in. So we upped cardio and changed the workouts again. And so maybe next week we'll do some low carb, high carb days, and just do some carb cycling next week and the week after that. See where to go from there.
And Jojo, what are you practicing currently? I know you're like 2,100 calories, but what are you kind
I'm
of
down to
practicing?
1,800 now, but yeah, I basically hit protein like per 1 gram per pound roughly, and then lower fats as low as possible. So right now they're at like 55 on average, and then the rest is just carbs. And then if I miss a little bit of protein, I'll just get it extra in carbs, things like that. So I guess it's a little bit if it fits your macros type deal. But my first like 2, I try to do like 3 or 4 meals, but like I'm a volume eater, so I like my meals to be bigger. So I'd rather have like 3 big meals as opposed to like 4 or 5 meals or 6 meals. But my breakfast is always the same. It's been the same since I started for my first show. I have like 300 grams of rice and 2 to 3 eggs every morning.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
I've literally, unless we go out as a family, but even then I get like toast and eggs. So like my first meal is always the exact same. Lunch is relatively the same, especially if I'm working with Amazon. It'll be like rice and some kind of protein and some vegetables. And then dinner, I usually leave like anywhere between like 800 to 1,000 calories for fluctuation for dinner for when I come home with the family, because we try to sit down every night to have dinner. So I just make sure to have that fluctuation. Like, if my daughter's like, hey, Dad, made brownies. I mean, right now I'm a little tighter on that. Like, I'm not doing that. But, I try to leave that room so I can have, family dinner still.
I'm over here weighing out peanut butter and cream of rice, and my man's eating brownies.
Yeah, I haven't eaten for the last few weeks, though. So.
No, I guess, Josh, for you, that's one of the good things is I don't think you have kids, so you don't have to worry about them walking around with cookies and snacks and everything else kind of tempting you at all.
Nope, just Lucas.
Yeah, it's true. Ivan's son, he can be dangerous towards you. So we brought up cardio. Let's talk about cardio. Big fans. How often are you guys doing it, and what's your method?
Yeah. So I personally do cardio with a splinter rack 7 days a week, but that's just because I tend to train 7 days a week, have been for a few years now at this point. So I'll do like during the weekdays, 10 minutes of cardio first thing in the morning, just to wake my ass up. I used to have a much more physically labor intensive job, so I didn't have to really worry about cardio as much. That's kind of why I started doing cardio that frequently. But I'll do typically 25 to 30 minutes during like my workout time. So in the afternoon, I'll usually do 10 minutes pre-workout and then 15 to 25 minutes post-workout. And then on the weekends, I'll just do all that kind of all in one jump to get it all out of the way.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you, when you and I trained together 2 weeks ago, my son has never in his life done a 35-minute cardio session. So I want to thank you for that. Usually he does like 15, 20 minutes, but he was like, no, I'll do it with you guys. I'll hang out. And I'm like, all right, good. So I'm like, when I ask him now, I'm like, you did it with Josh. He's like, well, that was Josh. I don't have to do it with you. I'm like, really?
Of course. That's how it is.
Oh my God. James, what is your cardio like?
So, I mean, I'm typically like Josh when I like to do pre-workout cardio. especially in the winter months, like as I'm getting older, just get my joints lubricated. But right now with the training being more functional, so I've got like a couple cardio movements, kettlebell swings, like walkout push-ups and stuff that are kind of in the beginning of the workout. So we're doing 15, 20 minutes of cardio post-workout, and then 3-4 days a week. I'll do the recumbent bike that I have in the living room, and I'll do it
Right.
30 to 45 minutes. It's low impact. It takes a lot to get sweaty. So like 30 minutes sounds like a lot, but we're watching TV, and it's actually sitting right behind my couch. So, me and my wife can be dorks and hold hands and watch TV, and I'm doing my cardio. I had elliptical in the other room for the last show, and it was always like, leave the room, do your 15, 20 minutes of cardio, and some shit would always happen. Having kids, it's like somebody's screaming, somebody's, doing something and they need something. So you're like, oh, well, let me stop. Or you feel like an asshole because you don't get off the elliptical to see what's going on. So this is what kind of works for me, is like I can have family time and do my cardio, and it doesn't jeopardize anything.
So you're saying you can be an asshole just staying on the recumbent bike then versus the elliptical?
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, stop that. And then just pedal. Give them the
Jojo,
look,
what do you
know what I mean?
practice? Yeah.
So to be honest, this year, this prep season, it was the first time I actually started to do intentional cardio. Because, being a delivery driver for Amazon, I was averaging, 10 to 15,000 steps a day, working 5-6 days a week. So last year when I did my show, first I wanted to prove to myself that I didn't have to do hours and hours of cardio. Because when you watch everybody's prep videos, that's all you hear, like hour of cardio, 2 hours of cardio. And like, I wanted to prove that I could do it without intentional cardio, without, I did 1 day of intentional cardio 8 weeks out. And then that was all the cardio I added. And that was
Right.
on a stationary bike for 20 minutes. That was it. And then I didn't do any actual like crunches or core exercise. All my core exercise was just like bracing through my workouts and stuff. So I wanted to prove to myself that I could get as lean as possible without doing all that crazy cardio, which worked. But this year I said, now I'm going to be on a pro stage. So I'm going to do everything I didn't do last year, but I didn't jump into cardio really fast. What I did is I added 1 day, like 20 weeks out, and then did that for a while. And then I'm up to 3 days right now, 4 days possibly right now, of like 30 minutes of level 10, speed of 5 on it, like a treadmill. And so far it's working. The weight's going down, and hopefully I won't have to add too much more cardio. But if I do, I will this year, because I want to win this pro show.
So here's a question from a listener, and I'll throw it out to everybody here. What do you guys think of 2 scoops of casein, half a cup of oats, banana, scoop of fit butters, which is, I like the almond butter stuff, as a snack before bed during a bulk? Side note, I do eat a ton of real food. I'll just throw it to anybody who wants to speak up.
So I'll kind of give my 2 cents here, is that that could be a lot of food before bed. You're kind of hitting fats and a ton of carbs there, a half cup of oats, banana, plus, the peanut butter, which basically is all fit butters is really. So if you can stomach it and, that's not too much food, then yeah, that's fine. You're getting a nice blend there. Casein or just a whey isolate to be fine. As far as digestion goes, you're putting the fats in with the protein, so you don't necessarily have to use a casein protein to slow digestion, because fats will automatically slow down the digestion of fat or carbs or protein. So I think it's a good play either way. But I would say total, like if you're in a bulk, the thing that's worked for me is to separate carbs and fats and not put them in the same meal, because fats slowing down digestion. If the goal is to put in as much food as possible, I would put protein and carbs together and then have a fat snack at a different point. So let the digestion happen, start to feel hungry again, and then add in some fats. So I would probably split this into 2 meals, get my casein, oats, and banana, and then I would take the peanut butter as a snack right before bed.
Yeah, when I look at it, just doing quick math in my head, 2 scoops of casein, maybe 250 calories, half a cup of oats, $150 maybe, banana 70 to 90. So we're at
Then what?
400-ish.
180 for the peanut butter there.
Yeah, so you look at almost 500. I guess, Looney, it comes down to if you'd be able to sleep and not feel bloated. If that's not going to affect your sleep at all as well. But I don't know, JoJo or Josh, comments?
I mean, I think if he likes it or he or she likes it, why not? I mean, if you're in a bulking and it fits and you can go to bed and wake up feel good, I mean, because I mean, I eat really big meals. Like tonight, I had 8 ounces of ground beef and 400 grams of potatoes. Which is a big meal for most people, or most people my size, maybe, I guess. But like, I say if it feels good, do it.
Josh, closing comment?
I'd say it really depends on their circumstances. I mean, they just asked us based on the food. I wish they had given more information as to like how they're training and things of that nature, because this could end up just being the wasted mass that you're kind of putting on there if you're not actually like doing the extra work that's necessary to kind of warrant that much extra, many extra calories being consumed like right before bed.
Yeah, and how many hours you're sleeping kind of factors into this as well.
Yeah.
He did a sidebar here. I'm in landscape construction, on my feet 9 to 12 hours a day, enough cardio for me, and obviously lifting a lot, I would assume. So he's a lot of obviously lifting and cardio. So I mean, for me, I think it's a nice meal. It's good, healthy stuff. For me, it's heavy. It would be heavy for me for bed, but during the day, one or two of those, I think it would be fine. But again, it like Josh said, it really depends on what your goal is and what your true activity is, that you're kind of not putting on too much weight. So, but advice for someone that wants to do their first show:
do it.
My advice would be, find somebody that is competent in it and understands the process, and set your expectations early. What is your goal? What's your motivation for doing a show? If you want to do it to be competitive, then take your time, build a good physique. If you're just trying to get up there to, like, say, JoJo or some of these guys that have lost a ton of weight, and for them this is showcasing their transformation and showcasing what they've done, and your goal is not necessarily to be the biggest or most ripped guy on stage. It's like, okay, we'll go in knowing that, you know what I mean, and do your best. But I would say find somebody that's good and will steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, I'd second that for sure. Find someone that's been in the circle. Make sure that you have a support group behind you that's willing to follow you during your highs and your lows, because when you're actually doing a show prop, you're going to have mood swings and all sorts of other shit. And some days you're just going to be a nasty son of a bitch. Some days you're going to be the nicest person on this earth. On top of that, make sure that your reason for stepping on stage is real and true. Make sure your intentions are actually matching up with that, because it's not as easy as just saying, okay, hey, I'm going to do this, and all of a sudden, cool, you're on the stage the next day. There's a lot of internal turmoil, internal struggle that you're going to face as a competitor getting ready for a show. And if you don't have the balls to actually kind of deal with that, face it head on, and still go throughout your day-to-day activities, you're going to fall flat on your face and not get back up.
I have a question.
Throw it out.
So like you said, for prep, having mood swings and stuff, am I just weird? Because like, I guess I feel like maybe I haven't trained hard enough, or I didn't diet hard enough, because I've never actually felt that. I've only done, one show really, coming into my second show. But even like in the midst of like the 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, peak week, like I didn't have mood swings. And maybe it's just because I have like more of like a, happy personality, I guess, and just everything's always greener kind of personality. Like somebody might have it worse than me, so I don't ever really get down. But like, I don't know. Am I just not doing it hard enough, you guys think, or do you think?
So JoJo, I'm gonna say this. I haven't really dug in and looked at your pictures, but chances are is you haven't pushed it hard enough. If you're not getting irritable and you're not fatigued at that level where just shit is just getting under your skin. Because I feel like I'm a very happy, very stress-free person from the way that I look at things. And even the last couple of weeks, you know, when my carbs get low, this is one reason why my wife didn't want me to do this, is because I can turn into an asshole.
Yeah.
But, you know, it just, everybody's different, but, you know, you also have to factor in that in an OCB show, conditioning isn't at the same level as like an NPC show. So you're maybe not having to push your body to that super extreme fat loss to get there. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing, but I would say that it's probably you could push harder and bring a better conditioning, and that would bring out some different aspects of your personality.
That is the plan this year. That's why every morning I put plan to suffer, because like I want to feel this suffer, you know, because you know I want to be there, you know, I want to win. So,
but I want to just jump in. One more thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about here lately is that it's expensive, you know, so you want to make sure that financially you don't have the stress and you're not cutting corners on food or cutting corners on whatever supplements you decide to take or protein, your tan, you know, gym memberships, your, you know, competition cards, usually 100, 200 bucks. All these things add up. And if you're at the point where, you know, you're week to week and you go, okay, well, hey, do I buy my posing trunks or do I get the food that I need to eat? This is not a sport that you should be doing. I mean, it's cool, I guess, you know, to dance around in your underwear. But
For some,
but the simple fact is like, you need to make life decisions that are going to be comfortable for you. And if you don't have, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, like whatever you expect it to cost, if you can't absorb that, don't do it. You know, wait until your life is at a better point, because chances are you can't afford it. Your stress is going to be high. Cortisol is going to be high. You're going to hold fat. You're going to look like shit, and you're going to be broke.
So I just want to jump on that, actually, what James said there. And this is, I don't know if there's any female competitors that watch this or any women that are interested in bodybuilding that watch this. But if you are,
women watch this, probably
plan on spending twice as much as any male competitor in order to step on that stage. That's just the simple and ugly fact of the industry. When it comes to your suit cost, you're going to be usually 10 times that of what a male competitor is going to be paying for their suit. And that's just usually for a more basic level suit to be done, fitted, customized to your exact needs so that you actually stand out on that stage. There's makeup costs, hair costs associated with it, kind of like if you were to go to a wedding and actually be in said wedding. Anticipate those costs. So like on the natural side of things, for like me and JoJo, for instance, OCB, we could plan to spend, depending upon how many different categories we enter, around $500 just to get the show paid for, the membership paid for, and possibly the tan paid for between $500 and $700. Women will be paying about double that in order just to get those entry costs covered, of course, factoring in your suit or your posing trunks, whatever it may be. And then, you know, the sky's the limit from there. So it's like James said, it is an investment in every single facet.
It's an expense. Okay. I'm a business guy. I'm gonna say it's not an investment. It's an expense. Okay. Don't con yourself. Spend the money, you know, it's gone, right?
you know, and let's face it, all the money invested, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but so many people say it. You do this just for a $50 trophy?
It's a $5 trophy.
I was trying to sound a little bit better, James.
No.
Yo, but the swords, though.
Hey, if you get a sword, man, hey, I swear to you, if I get a sword, you're going to see some pictures of me. Like, I'm taking that thing with me everywhere.
You and your son are going to be outside. Your son's going to be throwing like watermelons at you, and you're going to be like, you know,
fruiting into that bitch.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So what do you guys think is the hardest thing of competing when you look at the whole grand scale of things? The dieting, is it stepping on stage? Is it the exercise? Like what do you find the hardest thing that you have to overcome every day or every week?
For me, it's dieting, just because I love eating. Having to cut like when I did my first show, my calories got down to 1,100, and it's because, you know, I didn't do any cardio and things like that. So like Lucas even told me that's when I first met like the Final Scoop. Lucas was like, 1100, you need to message me right now. We need to talk. And I was just like, well, and then I told him, I wasn't doing cardio. And he was like, well, you don't need to eat that low in calories. But that, for me, that's the hardest part, is just like giving up food in that sense. Because if I could just be fat and happy, I would rather do that.
But Jojo, I think you've done the same thing I personally did, and many people have done, that they don't know better. They don't understand the calories.
Yeah.
And usually the first show you come in emaciated. I was ripped, but I was emaciated.
Yeah.
And I was probably on my last week, probably doing 1,300 calories. And I didn't
Mhm.
know any better. And I think everybody falls into that of not understanding like how your body fuels with food and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah, I've learned.
Josh, what about you? What's the hardest thing going into a show?
Sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's worse, you or James, because James is doing like 5 hours, but I know you said you go to bed at like midnight or 1 and get up like at the crack of dawn yourself.
Yeah, I usually go to bed between 8 and 10 o'clock, and like clockwork, I'm up between 11 and 12:30, ready to go, unfortunately.
In the evening, like you go to bed in the evening and wake up at midnight?
Yeah.
Damn, okay.
I function for like 18 to 20 hours somehow.
I'm the same way. My bedtime usually falls around like 11 at night, and then I'm up at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to the gym by 4. I mean, right now I'm actually going in at 3:30 because I have a client at 5. She was like, I need to have that morning, and I was like, that's my time. But I was like, nope, money's good too. So I just work out earlier and then train her. So, but yeah, I while we're here, I would actually like to ask you guys. I guess you only sleep, Josh, like 4 hours, and everybody talks about 7, 8 hours is the only way to do it. Like, how do you feel running on 4 hours?
5 scoops of pre-workout.
Appalling.
That's for Josh.
How do I feel? I've been, doing it for at least 7 years, so I can't answer that question honestly.
See, that's kind of how I feel too.
I feel normal because
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else.
What I was thinking, like most recently, was that I feel like they say you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep because the first 2 or 3 hours you're trying to get into like your deepest sleep, most people anyway. But then for someone like me, if I fall asleep, that's it, I'm asleep. So maybe because I have this like superpower of going into REM sleep once I close my eyes, I don't need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's why I can run on 3 hours, 4 hours.
So, being a habitual lack of sleeper here, I've run off of 4 or 5 hours of sleep for, going on 15 years now. So ever since I was going to school at night and all that, kind of the reading that I've done and just the experiments kind of on myself is having a high sleep latency or a low sleep latency where you fall asleep super fast and you're able to get into a deep sleep. Most people don't have that. So like a sleep tracker, you can see, hey, all right, it takes me, for instance, it takes me somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes to fall asleep.
Jeez.
Where an average person is sitting at 20 to 30 minutes to actually creep down into even a light sleep. So if you're able to eclipse that time and then stay in a REM and deep sleep cycle for the majority of that sleep and then wake up clean, it can work. Now, is this optimal for building muscle? No. Can you build muscle in a sleep zone like this? Yes.
Obviously, look at it.
Yeah, exactly. But could it be better? Yeah. But I think the majority of the people that push for an 8 to 9 hour sleep cycle are not getting quality 8 hours. They're sleeping 5 to 6 hours with very interrupted sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, a very high sleep latency where they're 30 plus minutes to fall asleep. They've got all these things going on. So they're very restless in their sleep, where I think guys like us, you're so exhausted throughout the day and you have to be organized with the things that you do that when you're ready to go to sleep, you're out and then you're up and you go. And so you get this block of time that is like, I always joke that there's a guy by the plug outlet, like in my brain going, did he lay down? Did he lay down? you know.
Yeah.
and then it's like bam, you're up and you go. So I think having good sleep hygiene, it can be effective.
So our good friend Alan, I don't know if Josh knows Alan, but James, you know Alan. How often do you guys practice posing and do you plan routines?
So Alan also said that we got to come back and do an Olympia podcast too.
Yes.
And me and him are going to rip some people on that.
So Josh, I know you start really early because after I left, I know you were in the back room there doing your pose in probably 30 minutes, if not more.
Yep. Yeah. So how often? Typically speaking, 2 to 3 times a week, and that's when I'm at Gold's usually. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, I'll be just doing my mandatory poses, doing favorite classic poses, and then I'll do a few runs through what I at least have in my head right now is my routine to music, and then I'll call it kind of a day. That's usually at the end of my training session, either before or after I've done cardio.
So now you're an aesthetic guy. So what kind of music will you pose to?
So right now it's going to be something EDM based. I'm going to be going.
Really? Okay.
Last year I had tried actually doing music that I would normally really fuck with and totally derailed everything. So it's got to be more of something that I feel this time around.
Jojo, what about you?
As for posing, last year I didn't practice it too much because I was just worried about not being fat and getting on stage. This year I was doing it only on Sundays because that was like my rest day because I was going 6 days a week. Now I go 7 days a week. But what I did is I actually watched Hani Rambod. He was training with somebody, and like after every workout, he would have them like hold a pose or something. So that's something I've been incorporating. So I'd hit my set and then hit like a front lat spread or even a double bicep or whatever. So I'm posing all the time now because, I think posing can make me look bigger than some of the guys who I'll probably be standing against, out angle them and just make the poses look easy too.
So are you doing a routine already, or when will you actually start figuring out the music to the actual poses?
So initially I was planning on like trying to do something like spectacular with my routine. And last year I didn't do anything. I just was like, play some music, I'll go up there, hit some mandatories and walk off the stage. This year I do want to do something. And I was thinking about doing more of like a rap, like hardcore song type deal. But coming from like a hula background, like I'm Hawaiian, we used to dance hula a lot, like as a family. I'm like, my body really doesn't like hit to that. So I'm thinking of maybe like a slower song, like, I don't know, something by Bruno Mars or something, and just more flowy, classic, I guess, esque work on my routine. I haven't really started on it though yet, so we'll see. And then on
James,
OCB, it doesn't count. So, so it's like,
And James, I think you told me in a DM you were doing Celine Dion.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's the game plan. I mean, no, to be honest though, like I think everybody would expect me to come out to like some hardcore rock or rap music, but 9 times out of 10, that shit does not play out well. Like it seems like you're trying to be hardcore. It doesn't work. And then typically it's like the same music that 70 other people have used. And I've learned that from like doing all these events at shows. I am leaning towards possibly doing an R&B song that's super slow, and I think would get kind of the ladies riled up. Just because I think that makes me laugh on the inside, and I would have fun with that. And I don't really give a shit what anybody else thinks. But then there's another couple songs that I think that are more serious but slow in the classic physique type that would translate well, and I think also kind of bring some of my personality to it. So we'll see.
See, I love the old school adage that if you're a mass monster, you come out to like Metallica or something really heavy because it seems to coincide. But then when you're kind of aesthetic and just flowing and everything, that you want to do something slow, you want to slow it down so that you can enhance the pose and hit the poses a little bit longer instead of bicep and then switch it into something else quickly.
Listen, if you're Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler, you come out to whatever the fuck you want.
True.
And it looks cool. At these regional shows, like, don't try to come out to something hardcore. you're not big enough, you're not lean enough, nobody knows you. Like, it just come out to something that, you know, like just kind of plays well and flows, you know?
Yep. Was there a bodybuilder that each of you looked up to kind of reinforce you getting on stage or going through the craziness?
So let's go. It's C-Bum, 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 C-Bum.
To be honest, for me, just being how short I am, I just was almost just going to give it up on that alone. But then I saw like Lee Priest and then Sean Clarita most recently when I started getting back into bodybuilding. I was like, dude, I think I'm taller than him. He looks crazy. And I
He's
was
a
like,
little
okay,
dude.
maybe I do have a chance at this. And so the shorter bodybuilders have kind of been my inspiration to just keep going because I could relate a little bit more.
So it's funny you bring up Lee Priest, and I'm sure it was inflated, but Milo Sarshev said with Lee was on the call or on the podcast that when he was in contest shape, his arms were 22 inches, and the guy was only 5'4".
As
But he
big
was
as my
also
thigh.
300 pounds in off season. I mean, he
Yeah,
turned
true.
into
So he
a
probably had
complete
27 inch. Just
fat shit.
yeah.
Still crazy.
Josh, and you said Phil Heath, right? Or was it someone else too?
Yep, Phil Heath and actually Wesley Vizers.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
He's a kind of somewhat newer classic physique guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So when all is said and done, when you're starting your prep, Josh, at the beginning, where do you plan? Like, how much do you plan on transforming? What are you starting at weight wise, and what would you like to step on stage at?
So, like this time around, I started off at 196, and I'm planning on stepping on stage somewhere to the tune of 160, 165.
Okay.
Last prep was like 180, and then I stepped on stage 147.
Wow. Okay. So you're about 13 pounds, and I know we discussed it, but you feel better at this point in the game than you did last year at the same kind of point.
Yeah, for sure. A lot better, a lot more confident in pretty much every aspect of how it's going.
And James, I know it's been a couple of years for you, but what are you going to start this prep at? What do you hope to be on stage at?
So, I mean, it's been 5 years. So in 2017, I weighed in at 180 pounds. So right now I'm 210. And so I expect to be 200, maybe even 205 if the food doesn't really drop.
Wow, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is that we're trying not to pull as much food because I was like JoJo. I mean, I was eating very, very little. So I probably sacrificed a lot of muscle to get up there as lean as I was. And, you know, I mean, it's 5 years. So I don't really stray off my diet. I eat my meals, whether I'm bulking or cutting or whatever, you know. So it's like I'm super regimented. So I would hope that, you know, in 5 years I could put on, you know, a handful of pounds. If not, then I should just give up.
And JoJo, where you starting? Where do you hope to finish?
Oh, so this prep this year is completely different than last year. So last year, you know, I went from 195 just sloppy, never working out to 156 stage weight. And
Wow,
so,
okay.
yeah, so from there, I went up. I took from basically December to mid-June to, I guess, bulk. I got my calories up from 1,100 to 3,300 at my highest. And I was sitting there, and then it started getting a little sloppy, and I was like, maybe I need to start prep. So I started prep at like 185, and my idea is to get back to about 150 because I assume I put on new muscle because I look better than I did on the show. You know, I was a little leaner for the show, but like just my V taper, my X frame, like everything is better right now. So I feel like if I get back to the same weight, I should look like pretty nasty. Like, because at 156, then I was striated, like chest up, but everything else was kind of loose. But this year, I feel like if I get back down to 150, I should be pretty tight everywhere, except for the fact that I have like loose belly skin. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about because like I got really lean around the stomach. You could see the abs, but I still had that low belly. I guess it was belly fat, but it was more just skin than it was belly fat. So I guess we'll see what happens when I get that low again, if I'll have just as much skin hang, or
You
maybe
could
it
get
was just
trunks
that.
though that might have come up a little bit higher though to kind of camouflage out a little bit. No,
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. I'm just trying to get skinny and lean right now. But if you know anything about that, yeah, I would love to figure that out.
You could
and it's
also play
OC.
with some of your poses to
Yeah.
keep your hands maybe to hide that, like in a side chest or something.
Yeah, I heard a thing that you could tape even. I don't know if that's illegal or not, but I heard something about taping it.
Definitely,
I-
I think that would be in the OC.
Yeah, I think you can only tape things in the trunks, man.
I better learn how to tape it into the trunks then.
Oh my God. So another question here: better physique, golden era bodybuilder or modern day? So I don't know what he means by a golden era, maybe 80s and 90s versus today. I would assume.
But I think isn't it like the golden era, like 70s and 80s bodybuilding, like
Yeah, you might be
old
right,
school
James. Now I think
Arnold.
about it.
Yeah. So you got your Frank Zanes, your Arnolds, your Franco Columbos, and Sergio Olivia's. And...
Yeah, for me it's right. For me it's right in the middle, right? The 90s. I'm a 90s guy, tried and true, and early 2000s.
I can appreciate a lot of the different physiques. There's a lot of guys in the 70s that I really, really like. I mean, like growing up, Arnold was the kind of pinnacle of that, especially kind of me being a taller guy. Like Arnold was a little bit taller, big chest, it was like, but then you take some of the guys that we have on stage today. I mean, Terrence Ruffin, Chris Bumstead. I mean, just beautiful physiques and still bringing a great level of conditioning and flow to it. I think the top couple guys there in classic are just really amazing.
Josh, preference a decade or preference of yeah, I guess decade. You're a young guy.
I would have to say similar to James, what James just said there.
No, what he just said was similar to James. So he thinks that I look the best, is what I heard.
I think I heard James is similar to Bumstead. I think I heard James and Bumstead in the same sentence.
I heard James and Bumstead were related. That's what I heard. And that he wasn't working with Ian this year either.
Uh-oh.
But no, I think the guys from the 70s that we all pretty much everyone looks up to. There's definitely something to be said about them, but they were always lacking in one department, and that was the legs. And the classic guys that we have now are, similar weight caps and all that jazz, but, they have these things that they walk on, and they're called legs, and they look nice. So I vibe with the whole Terrence especially. Nothing against Chris.
Terrence is as far as classic goes. Yeah, I mean his posing is just insane.
So yeah, no, I like the current when it comes to classic bodybuilding, I like the current far more.
James, between you and I, you've seen all these on Instagram. Everybody putting the side by sides of Bumstead and Arnold. Come on now, you've seen all these going around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's two different worlds. I mean we're looking at pictures, and I can tell you just from being at the Olympia last year and being at some of these shows, is that pictures in real life are not the same. So to try to take a picture from the 70s with the cameras that they had, or even like the 90s with the cameras that they had to today, you can't make that judgment call. And I think that that's an unfair kind of comparison.
100%.
Jojo, what about you? You're a young guy too. Like, where do you have a generation or a decade that you lean towards that you really like the physiques?
Honestly, I just enjoy it all. I don't follow enough to know, if you said Franco Colombo or, Arnold, C-Bum, all of them, they're, relevant all the time. But some of the older bodybuilders, my dad's favorite was Franco Colombo. And I was just like, I don't know who that is. I knew the name, but I couldn't match a body with the name. And that's how I am with a lot of the bodybuilders. I know their names, but I don't look at them enough to understand their bodies. So I just appreciate it all, to be honest.
Franco's a short guy too, though. Hopefully you've looked him up, but he was
Yeah.
a little brick shit house.
Yeah, that's, my dad said, he's like, you remind me of Franco Colombo, and I was like, well, he was good, so.
James, you got to respect him for being a little bit of a power lifter yourself, though.
I'm not a power lifter. I'm just a gym bro, man.
Dude, but some of the deadlifts you put up are almost like going into power lifter realms here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing all right this year. Yeah.
So, guys, we've talked a lot here. Is there anything else that people want to kind of discuss that maybe we didn't tackle here, or?
I don't know, man. I mean, to me, it's like there's a lot of good and bad with it. I mean, doing the competition, some people, give up so much of their life to step on stage, and I think if you're at an elite level where like, hey, you've got the genetics, then maybe you can make a career out of it. But I hate to see people just completely dead into a competition, cut people out of their lives, sacrifice things, a job, financials, and more often than not, they don't place well, and then they don't hit the gym for 2 months, and they've only committed for this glamour moment and not really for kind of like the physical lifestyle of, hey, this is a piece of my life. This is something that I am doing in the fitness lifestyle that I have. Not, I'm going to do a competition just to get the photos. And then, if I don't go pro, then fuck it.
There's more to competing than just competing.
Right.
There's a lot more.
One last question. How do you guys keep motivated where there's days where it's like you get the brain fog, you get the shitty attitude? What keeps you guys going? And from food, from training, not grabbing that brownie, whatever, what keeps you guys focused daily on the prize?
For me, it's just to prove to my kids that it can be done. I mean, they're my driving motivation. Like, I don't want to make excuses that dad's too tired from working, taking care of you, to not go to the gym. So I want every day when I'm tired, I'm like, would I let my kids give up? Probably not. So I'm not going to give up. So that's me. I wake up every day going, I'm going to prove to them that I can work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, wake up early in the morning, go to the gym, and now a trainer, and do clients, and I've learned that from my parents. I mean, my dad's 70, my mom's 62. They're still working full-time jobs. I mean, that, it's not as old as it used to be, but they don't have to work, but they do, so that's kind of where I want to be.
James or Josh, last question.
I'll let Josh go.
Whenever I get like that, I just remind myself that I've experienced worse. So there's no question after I remind myself that what I need to do to keep doing it.
For me, I just go, don't be a bitch. I mean, it's like kind of like what Josh said. I mean, for me, it's like, dude, I've been in some real life-threatening situations. I've been through some shit, and to have the opportunity to just do something miserable to build willpower and kind of that internal strength, where it's not really life or death. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's so fucking hard. This is the hardest thing you do. Like, get the fuck out of here. But it's all these little decisions that you make that you're the only person that's accountable. I could go eat a scoop of fucking peanut butter right now, right? Nobody else cares except me, right? So I'm the only person that I'm accountable to in all these moments. And I know that if I can keep the promises to myself, then that means when other people rely on me, I will have the strength to make the right decisions for them. So it's just another layer on top of building kind of that discipline and that motivation to conquer anything in the world. And I know that's very kind of like positive, uplifting, yah bullshit, but I mean, that really is what it is. It's like, I got into fitness to build a foundation for the discipline in my life. And now this is just kind of another exercise of, like David Goggins would say, is like, find some suffering, do some hard shit, and just make it hard and know that it's making you better. So don't be a bitch and get it done.
Yeah. One last question, guys. And I keep saying that, but one last question from Joshua here. The gym used to be such an underground niche for me growing up.
My
Now it's such a
man.
mainstream fad. Do you see it continuing to grow, or do you think it'll go back to the way it was?
As long as social media is around, it's going to continue to grow. I mean, the gym bros that you'll constantly be seeing, they'll constantly be there taking their shit off, doing shit for clout, all of that. All of the women that are there to be fucking thirst traps and all of that, they're going to continue because, well, social media is here, and what do we do? As long as it's popular on social media, we buy into it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I think you'll see a shift maybe in a few years where you'll have like alpha elite gyms, and then you'll just see this hardcore dungeon gym resurrection come back up. So I think you'll just see like a huge split in the gym community probably happen as you'll have the TikTokers, and then you'll have like the real hardcore people, and that's kind of like where it's going to end up.
Got it. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. I know it's late for some of us, and some of you guys probably still waiting for dinner. I appreciate everybody's time. If you just want to go around quickly, Jojo, where can people follow you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Easiest way is on Instagram. Yabui _is_the_ name. And then Apollo Nutrition, Yabui 15.
And James, yourself, give your plug, buddy.
ImpelNutrition.com. Real third-party supplements. We are all about great manufacturing, no bullshit, clear marketing. Check us out at Impel Nutrition if you guys have any questions, want to talk anything. And the whey protein is coming soon.
And one of the best beards in the supplement business. And Josh, go ahead and plug yourself.
So for supplements, the One Nutrition at the _nutrition. Pre-workouts, intro workout, fat burners, all that jazz. That's what we do every single day. Dry scoop, king of the dry scoop right here. And it's a 16-gram dry scoop, and I've done a 27-gram dry scoop. So I'm saying, personal though is at Joshua Karuba. Holler at your boy. Yeah, it's been real. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
All of you guys.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun time.
Thanks for taking my virginity.
Dang it.
Great way to end the show. And for anybody listening to this on the audio platforms, please be sure to leave a comment and leave a 5-star review. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.